This isn't just a prison. It's a place where time dies slowly, and hope is the first inmate to be executed. Hidden far away from the eyes of the world, beyond city lights and human sympathy, lies a facility so feared, so relentlessly brutal, that even the most hardened criminals dread its name. Welcome to Black Dolphin Prison, Russia's most notorious correctional facility, and arguably the most terrifying prison on Earth. Perched near the Kazakhstan border, in the remote town of Sol-Iletsk, Black Dolphin isn't just a high-security prison, it's a psychological fortress built to crush the human spirit. It holds the worst of the worst: serial killers, rapists, terrorists, cannibals, and mass murderers. Men who have slaughtered entire families, dismembered their victims, and committed crimes so dark they defy human comprehension. Inside these walls, mercy has no meaning, and escape isn't even a fantasy. It's impossible. The name Black Dolphin comes from the statue that greets visitors at the entrance, a black dolphin mounted on a pedestal, carved by the inmates themselves. It's ironic. Dolphins are symbols of freedom, intelligence, and life. But here, this lifeless figure marks the gate to a place where freedom is a myth, intelligence is a threat, and life is reduced to a mechanical routine of survival. So what makes this prison truly the most dangerous? Not just in terms of who it holds, but how it operates? Every inmate here is sentenced to life without parole. They are never told how long they'll stay because the answer is until death. Surveillance is constant. Inmates are watched 24/7, with guards checking their cells every 15 minutes. The prisoners are never allowed to rest on their beds during the day. They must either sit upright or stand. Even their food is passed through a small hatch, ensuring zero physical contact with the outside world. Movement inside the prison is another psychological weapon. Whenever a prisoner is moved, for their 1 hour of daily exercise or a routine inspection, they are blindfolded, handcuffed, and bent at a 90-degree angle, with guards holding them by their arms. They never see the layout of the prison. They are never allowed to speak to other inmates. Imagine a life where your voice is forbidden, your identity is stripped, and your world shrinks to a 6-by-8-foot cage. Their daily routine is designed to destroy routine. Wake-up time is 6 a.m. From then, the schedule is painfully strict. Personal hygiene, cell inspection, monitored movements, solitary walks in a tiny concrete yard, and then back to the same blank gray walls. There are no communal meals, no shared activities, no visitors. Even lawyers can only communicate through thick glass. This is not just punishment, it is psychological dismantling. Currently, Black Dolphin houses over 700 inmates, collectively responsible for the deaths of more than 3,500 people. Some of them have murdered over 50 individuals. These are not merely dangerous people, they are predators, many with zero remorse. To contain them, the prison employs over 900 guards, rotating in shifts, trained to maintain absolute control at all times. There is no room for error. But Black Dolphin isn't alone in its brutality. Across the world, in the heart of Colorado, USA, stands another monster, ADX Florence, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Designed to hold America's most dangerous criminals, ADX Florence keeps its inmates locked in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. There's no physical contact, no windows to see the outside world, no natural light. Some inmates have described it as a clean version of hell. Psychologists have warned that extended isolation at ADX can lead to hallucinations, self-harm, and irreversible mental damage. But in the name of national security, the system persists. So, what does all of this mean? It means the concept of punishment in these prisons goes far beyond the traditional. It's not just about removing dangerous people from society. It's about erasing their humanity, breaking them down into silent, forgotten shadows. And as much as these men may deserve justice, are we comfortable with justice that looks like this? In this series, we're going to uncover everything: the daily horrors, the silent screams, the true cost of being locked in the world's most dangerous prison. Is it justice? Is it revenge? Or is it something far darker? One thing is certain: once you enter the Black Dolphin, you never walk out, and the truth we're about to uncover might haunt you long after this story ends. Daily life of inmates, trapped in a living nightmare. If you think life in prison is about sitting in a cell, reading books, or counting the days on a wall, think again. Because inside Black Dolphin Prison, the daily routine is not just restrictive, it is a system specifically engineered to eliminate freedom of thought, destroy hope, and dismantle the very essence of human identity. Every day begins at exactly 6 a.m., but there are no alarms. Inmates are already awake. They have to be. Sleeping during daylight hours is strictly forbidden. There are cameras in every corner of the cell. The moment a prisoner lies down outside designated sleeping time, a guard will bang on the door, shout commands, or worse, enter the cell, and deliver a punishment. And this isn't rare, it's routine. The prisoners are required to stand inside their cells for at least 16 hours a day. They are not allowed to sit or lie down unless granted permission. Their backs must remain straight. Their hands must stay behind their backs. They're not allowed to lean against the wall or rest on their beds. This may sound simple, but imagine doing it for days, weeks, months, and years without a break. The physical fatigue is matched only by the psychological exhaustion. Every 15 minutes, a guard walks past the cell, peers in through the viewing slot, and notes the inmate's behavior. That's 96 checks every single day. This constant surveillance isn't just about safety, it's about domination. The message is clear: you are never alone, and you are never in control. Meals are served 3 times a day, but forget about cafeteria lines or human interaction. Food is slid through a small metal opening. The meals are basic: porridge, soup, bread, sometimes boiled potatoes or cabbage. No meat, no sugar, no choice, and every utensil, every bowl, is collected immediately after use. There's no hoarding, no keeping anything that could be turned into a weapon or a memory. There are no visitors, not even family. Letters may be written, but they're censored and often delayed for months. Phone calls? Not allowed. Outside communication is a rare privilege, given only to a few and under extreme monitoring. The prison is designed to erase the outside world from the inmate's mind, and it works. Each prisoner gets 1 hour per day outside the cell, but even that is within a small concrete cage, surrounded by tall walls and barbed wire. There is no grass, no sky view, just a small piece of the world through the open ceiling, surrounded by stone. That's what they call exercise. Most inmates walk in circles, hundreds of laps, just to stay sane. Some give up entirely, standing motionless, looking up at the little slice of sky they can never reach. But perhaps the most disturbing part of daily life in Black Dolphin is the way prisoners are moved. Any time an inmate leaves his cell, for exercise, medical exams, or even interrogation, he is blindfolded, handcuffed behind his back, and bent over at a 90-degree angle. A guard holds each arm, forcing the prisoner to shuffle step by step. Why? Because if they can't see the layout of the prison, they can't escape it. Even after years, inmates have no idea where anything is. They are strangers in the place they're dying in. This level of psychological control goes beyond punishment. It's a form of conditioning. Over time, prisoners lose track of days, of months, of their own identities. Some have tried to keep time by marking the wall, but those marks are quickly discovered and wiped away. One guard once said, "We don't let them count the days. We want them to forget there ever was a world outside." There are no rehabilitation programs here, no group therapy, no education. Black Dolphin does not believe in second chances. If you're sent here, you're considered too dangerous for reform. This isn't a place for redemption. It's a place for containment and slow erasure. And still, even with all of this, some inmates resist. They refuse to break. They walk their circles, keep their thoughts guarded, and hold on to what little identity they have left. But many don't make it. Depression, madness, even suicide attempts are common. Some have gone years without speaking a single word. Others forget how to speak entirely. So when we ask, how severe is the punishment? It's not just physical, it's spiritual, it's psychological, It's a life where every second is accounted for, every breath is monitored, and every dream is crushed before it can even begin. This is the daily life of the world's most dangerous prisoners. But here's the haunting question. At what point does justice become torture? In the next chapter, we go deeper into real stories from inside these walls. The confessions, the escape attempts, and the terrifying truths no one dares to speak. Are you ready? Punishments and psychological impact, breaking the human spirit. When you take everything away from a man, his freedom, his name, his voice, what's left? The answer lies deep inside the walls of Black Dolphin Prison. Not in the cold concrete, not in the cameras, but in the eyes of the men who have nothing left to lose and nothing left to feel. The routine in Black Dolphin is already harsh, but what happens when someone breaks the rules in a place that already feels like hell? What more can they take from a person who has already been stripped of everything? The answer: your mind. Punishment inside Black Dolphin is not just about inflicting pain, it's about control. Control so complete that even thoughts begin to feel like crimes. Every move you make, every sound you utter, every twitch of defiance is watched, recorded, and judged. And if you step out of line, the consequences are swift, silent, and brutal. Let's start with the smallest infractions: talking. Inmates are not allowed to speak unless spoken to. They cannot talk to guards, cannot whisper to themselves, and absolutely cannot attempt to communicate with other prisoners. If a man is caught whispering, even in his sleep, he may be placed in isolation. But this is not isolation, as most imagine it. It is complete sensory deprivation. A cell with no windows, no sound, no clocks, no books, no sense of time or space. Just 4 gray walls and silence so thick it begins to ring in your ears. Prisoners describe losing track of whether it was day or night. Some begin to hallucinate. Others talk to themselves until they forget how to speak in real conversations. One former guard confessed, "Isolation doesn't punish the body, it strangles the mind." For more serious violations, such as refusing to follow orders, resisting searches, or showing aggression, the punishments intensify. Inmates can be strapped to metal beds, forced into stress positions for hours or even days. These stress positions are designed not to cause injury, but to induce exhaustion, pain, and mental collapse. It is punishment by attrition. Another commonly used tool is the restraint suit, a full-body harness that immobilizes the inmate completely, reducing him to a frozen figure, incapable of moving or defending himself. Sometimes these suits are kept on for hours. In colder months, it becomes not just a restraint, but a way to test endurance against freezing temperatures. But perhaps the darkest punishment is the internal exile, the moment when a prisoner is labeled as beyond recovery. These inmates are moved to a different part of the prison, known informally as the blind zone. There, communication is cut off completely. Guards deliver food without eye contact. Lights stay on 24/7. There is no acknowledgement of their existence. They are alive, technically, but invisible, forgotten, removed even from the nightmare they once lived in. What does that do to the mind? Psychologists who have studied supermax prisons like Black Dolphin have documented deep mental trauma in inmates. Common effects include severe hallucinations, loss of speech, paranoia and delusions, self-mutilation, dissociative identity episodes. Total emotional numbness. One inmate reportedly began eating pieces of the metal bed frame, convinced it would make him strong enough to escape. Another spent years memorizing a single poem, repeating it silently every hour just to remember who he was. Even guards are affected. Several former officers at Black Dolphin have admitted to developing insomnia, anxiety, and emotional detachment. One said, "You see a man crumble in front of you slowly, day after day. And you can't do anything, even if you want to. And yet, society barely notices. Why? Because these men are monsters, murderers, rapists, killers. We think they deserve it. But does punishment lose its meaning when it stops being justice and becomes suffering? Is a system truly civilized when it drives people to madness just to maintain the illusion of control? This isn't just a Russian issue. As we've seen before, the ADX Florence Supermax in the United States has similar effects. Prisoners there, some in solitary confinement for over 20 years, have attempted suicide, swallowed broken glass, or mutilated themselves just to feel something. One infamous case involved an inmate who chewed off his own fingers, one by one. International human rights organizations have long criticized such facilities, calling them modern torture chambers. The United Nations has declared long-term solitary confinement to be a form of torture when lasting more than 15 days. But in Black Dolphin and ADX, it's not days, it's years, decades. Still, the officials stand firm. The argument? These are not normal people. They cannot be treated normally. They are threats until their last breath. Maybe they're right. Or maybe we've built places so cold, so cruel, that we've created something worse than criminals. We've created ghosts who are still breathing. In the next part, we go inside those walls, not just with facts, but with real stories, first-hand accounts, terrifying moments, secret recordings. And one question hangs in the air. Are we locking away evil or becoming part of it? Real stories from inside, the monsters, the madness, and the moments that haunt. When the steel doors shut behind them, the world forgets their names. But inside Black Dolphin, every inmate has a story. Some are filled with blood and cruelty, others with chilling calmness, as if murder was never a crime at all, but a job done well. In this part, we open the door, not to escape, but to step inside. And once you do, these stories will stay with you. The cannibal of Novosibirsk, Alexander Spasivtsev, a name that still echoes in the cold hallways of Black Dolphin. Convicted of torturing, murdering, and eating at least 19 children, he's considered one of the most horrifying cannibals in Russian history. But when he speaks, his voice is soft. His manner is calculated. He doesn't yell or brag. He simply explains, like a man telling you how he takes his coffee. He was caught after the dismembered remains of a young girl were found floating in a Siberian river. When police stormed his apartment, they found bloodstains on the walls, body parts in buckets, and cooked flesh in the kitchen. His own mother had been helping him lure victims. Spasivtsev never resisted arrest. He simply said, "I knew you'd come." In Black Dolphin, he lives under strict monitoring, but even among serial killers, he is avoided. The guards won't speak to him unless necessary. Other inmates have tried to attack him, not out of justice, but fear. Some people, one officer said, bring death with them, even when they're locked up. The silent one. Not every horror comes with a loud confession. Some arrive in silence. One inmate, whose name is kept classified by Russian authorities, was convicted of 48 murders across several regions of Russia. Known only by his initials, he never spoke during his trial. Not once. Not a single word. He simply stared forward, eyes cold, hands folded, as prosecutors read out lists of his crimes. One victim was a 9-year-old girl, another was an elderly man. No pattern, no remorse. Inside Black Dolphin, he is known as the Silent One. He follows every rule perfectly. He wakes at 6 a.m., stands without leaning, eats without sound, and obeys orders with robotic precision. But no one has heard him speak, not even to himself. Some believe he went completely mute from trauma. Others say it's a tactic to keep control over something, even when everything else has been taken. The prison psychologist who evaluated him said, "This man is not insane. He is perfectly sane. That's what makes him terrifying. He has complete emotional control and absolutely no empathy." The escape artist who never escaped. Mikhail Popkov, a former policeman turned serial killer, is one of Black Dolphin's most infamous inmates. Responsible for 83 confirmed murders, Popkov would patrol late at night in his police vehicle, offering rides to women. Then he'd drive them into the woods. His tools were varied: an axe, a hammer, a knife, whatever he had. Many victims were never found. What makes Popkov unique isn't just the body count, it's how normal he appeared. A decorated officer, a father, a husband. Even after his arrest, his wife insisted he was innocent, until the DNA evidence said otherwise. In prison, Popkov tried to escape, not physically, but mentally. He wrote long journals, poems, and even letters asking to work in the prison library. Officials denied every request. He's trying to humanize himself, one guard said. But monsters don't get jobs. Still, Popkov writes, and some believe his stories aren't fiction, they're confessions in disguise. A guard's breakdown. It's not just inmates who suffer in the shadow of Black Dolphin. One former officer who worked at the prison for over a decade left after a complete psychological collapse. His testimony was later recorded for a documentary, but his face was blurred and his voice disguised. I watched men fall apart, not because they were beaten, but because no one saw them anymore. No names, no voices, just numbers. When I got home, I started seeing them in my dreams. I'd wake up hearing screams that weren't real, or maybe they were. The officer eventually left the country, saying he would never walk past a prison again. His final statement? There are things inside those walls that don't die when a man dies. They stay there, waiting. Are they still human? These stories raise a difficult question. Do these people still deserve to be called human? It's easy to say no. Their crimes are unforgivable, their minds twisted, their pasts soaked in blood. But what if the way we treat them becomes a mirror, a reflection of our own darkness? In the cold, silent cells of Black Dolphin, justice wears a black uniform and speaks in orders. But behind every locked door is a soul, corrupted, monstrous maybe, but still breathing. And maybe that's what disturbs us most. Not that they're still alive, but that we're the ones keeping them that way. In the final part, we'll ask the hardest questions yet. What is justice in a place like this? Can a system designed to erase evil survive without becoming evil itself? Justice or torture? The final question behind the prison walls. Step inside a place like Black Dolphin, and one thing becomes very clear. It's not just a prison. It's a machine built to erase people, not kill them, but break them, piece by piece. With every passing hour, with every command barked from behind bulletproof glass, one question grows louder. Is this justice, or have we created something darker? Let's step back. Why do we build prisons? To punish? To protect society? To reform? Maybe all three. But what happens when a prison gives up on the third? What happens when no one inside is expected to change or ever return to society? At Black Dolphin, inmates are there for life. No parole, no visitors, no rehabilitation. Many have committed unspeakable crimes: mass murder, serial killings, cannibalism. These are not people society is willing to forgive. But do we still owe them humanity? The Russian government argues that prisons like Black Dolphin are necessary, that they protect the rest of us. And in a way, they do. No one has ever escaped. Crime rates don't rise because of their release, because there is no release. But protection can quickly turn into vengeance. And vengeance doesn't care if someone suffers more than they deserve. It only wants pain in return. Let's talk about international law. According to the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners, also known as the Nelson Mandela Rules, every prisoner, regardless of crime, is entitled to respect for their inherent dignity, access to health care, freedom from torture, cruel or degrading treatment, communication with the outside world, opportunities for rehabilitation. How many of those rights exist inside Black Dolphin? Very few, if any. And Russia is not alone in this. Similar prisons exist around the world: ADX Florence in the US, La Santé in France, Xinjiang Prison in China. Each of these supermax facilities operates with isolation, silence, and psychological pressure. But let's play devil's advocate. What if some people truly are beyond saving? What if offering kindness to a man who murdered 40 innocent people feels like a betrayal to their families? What if we don't want redemption? We want a wall between us and the monsters. These are real feelings, real fears, and justice systems often reflect the emotional will of a nation. We punish not just to teach, but to send a message: this is the cost of your crime. And yet, the line is blurry, because punishment must serve a purpose, and when it becomes endless, hopeless, and merciless, it no longer teaches, it destroys. Not just the guilty, but the systems meant to uphold justice. If we build cages where men forget how to speak, how to feel, how to think, are we protecting society or corrupting ourselves? There's another question here. Who gets to decide when punishment is enough? Governments, victims' families, society? Or is there a universal human limit, a point where suffering no longer balances the scales of justice? Let's not forget, even the worst criminals are still people. That doesn't mean they deserve sympathy. It doesn't mean we forget what they've done. But if we deny their humanity entirely, we risk denying our own. History warns us of this. In regimes where prisoners were treated like animals, Nazi camps, Soviet gulags, political detention centers, the world later looked back in horror. We said, never again. But what if we are doing it again, just with better locks and less attention? Even some prison staff begin to change over time. Guards at Black Dolphin have reported emotional detachment, nightmares, and even guilt. One former officer described it as being buried alive with men who can never leave. The weight of responsibility doesn't just fall on inmates, it crushes those who enforce the rules too. So, is there an answer? Maybe not a perfect one. Some say the answer is balance, punishment that fits the crime but doesn't erase the prisoner's existence. Others say the worst criminals forfeit all rights the moment they committed their crimes. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, there is no clean justice. There is only a choice between revenge and principle, between protecting society and protecting what makes us human. Black Dolphin stands as a symbol of the darkest part of the justice system. It's effective, it's secure, but it's also a mirror. And when we stare into it, we must ask, do we see the monster we locked away, or the one we're becoming?